Hi everyone, Mrs. Olson here to talk about primary and secondary sources. We use primary and secondary sources in history to understand the story, to provide evidence for the way the story happened. So let's talk about primary sources first. Primary sources are created in the time period about that time period. So an example of a primary source would be a written document, a photograph, an artifact, perhaps even a voice recording. So a specific example of a written document that can be considered a primary source would be the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is a written document that was created in the time period, the 1700s, about that time period. Another specific example could be a photograph. During the Great Depression in the United States, there was a photographer named Dorothea Lange. She took many photographs about the Depression, people's stories. These can be considered a primary source because they were taken during the Depression about what people were experiencing during the Depression. So in that way, they provide evidence, they support the facts, the story of the Great Depression. Now, opposed to secondary sources. Now, secondary sources can be used to provide evidence to support the story, but secondary sources were created later. So let's take the example of a history textbook. We can use a textbook to provide evidence for a historical story, but we know that a textbook was written later. So we can look up many things and still believe in those facts and use it as evidence, but it's a secondary source if it was created after the time period that they are writing about. Hopefully, this gives you a good understanding and an explanation between primary sources and secondary sources. See you later.